get into this inner sanctum here on Nuns Island. You have a great relationship with the people of Galway. You're in the heart of the city. Tell us about that relationship.
We're in Galway since 1642, so there's a long history of the Poor Clares being in Galway. 1649, the city gave us this property in Nuns Island as a gift in perpetuity. And so there's a long association of people coming here, a reciprocal relationship. The people coming looking for prayers, and they support us with food, donations.
And people obviously believe in the power of your prayer. So what is the power of prayer, Sister Colette?
Well, I think, obviously I believe in God. Yes. I've staked my whole life on that. I wouldn't be here otherwise. So I think a lot of what we do here would be just listening to people.
Okay.
And because people carry all kinds of burdens, but they go away lighter because they've unburdened, and someone doesn't often always change their situations, but they can cope better, or if they get hope.
Now, the big change in your life, of course, is that you were born Marina Hayden. What were you like as a child, and what was family life like?
I was asking my sister, I'm the eldest, and she was just a year younger than me, so she said, oh, well, you were very good until we got to the teens. I suppose being the eldest, there was a sense of responsibility, even though I didn't realise it, but it obviously was there. But say in Leaving Cert, maybe I might have been kind of slipping out and going covertly, that kind of way. But,
and was it a religious household?
I don't think it was overly religious, but faith was very much part of our upbringing, and there was no kind of question that you wouldn't go to Mass on a Sunday. You just knew it was part of what we did.
And the values and the code in the house?
Well, my father was a civil servant and my mother worked in the home. And so I think family values were paramount, really, yeah. And I think a good work ethic, that you worked, like whatever job you did, you gave it your best. Integrity, trustfulness. I think they were all, and I think fun. Both my parents' families, it was always great fun.
So then you go to university. At that stage, was there any inkling of the vocation?
No, I never thought of...
Never?
Yeah, well, it never was on my radar, really. I always thought I'd get married and have a family. That was the way I thought, and had boyfriends in school and in college, and I loved... And when I went to university, it was just like a whole new life opened up for me, and I loved it. It was so much part of discovering who I was and being an independent person and relating to men, as a woman. And it just was a whole new world. It wasn't so gone on the study, but I certainly liked the social life in college.
So you loved college life?
I loved it, yeah.
So you qualify as a certified accountant?
I did.
Which is a fantastic achievement. And what was life like then? Were you mixing? Were you fashion conscious? Were you into music? And
yeah, I loved music. I loved socialising, going out to discos, as they were called in those days, and fashion. And as a trainee accountant, I didn't have that much money really disposable, but enough to enjoy myself. But when I qualified, it was like an anticlimax, because I had spent many years at it, and just thinking, was this what it was all about? All those years of, slogging at the exams. It just felt kind of empty at that stage. But I think that is when my faith became stronger.
Okay.
And so, doing the exams, passing and failing and all this kind of thing, I found that I used to get more fervent coming up to exams. Maybe I'd do extra novenas or go to Mass during the week. So I began to think, if God is real, then there has to be more to a relationship with God than just coming when I'm desperate.
Yeah.
And if he's not real, what's the point? And around that time, I saw a video about Medjugorje, and I just was blown away by the fact that, Our Lady could be appearing in our world in my time.
But you're a certified accountant at this stage, Sister Colette. Or Marina, as you were then. You believe in numbers, and that numbers add, and numbers are logical, totally, completely logical. And here you are saying, actually, I believe that Our Lady was appearing in what was then Yugoslavia or whatever, Medjugorje.
It just stirred something in me, I suppose, when I heard about it. So eventually I got the chance to go to Medjugorje. And so it was a week-long trip. And on the second last day, I was at Mass. And during the consecration, it's hard to describe it really, but I was just overwhelmed by God's love for me. And my whole life changed from that moment. I can still remember it distinctly. I didn't want to become a nun, but I just felt so touched by God's love that whatever he wanted, I wanted as well. So when I came back, I met this priest, and when I spoke to him, he asked me what I was doing. I said I was studying accountancy. So he suggested I finish out what I was doing, and it would always stand to me.
Yeah.
And, I put the idea of vocation in the back burner, and I went out with people. I had boyfriends in that time as well. And I had good relationships, but I never felt that any of them was the one. But it was like the day after I qualified, it was like it just came back really very much onto my consciousness. It was like, you've had those few years now, but would you consider looking at this?
But did you think you'd be a nun in an enclosed order?
Well, I decided if I was being called to be a nun, I knew it was to do with prayer. And I had a conviction of the power of prayer as well. So the radicality of it attracted me on one level.
Okay.
But it also was very difficult as well, because it's like, once I go inside that door, that's it.
At that stage, you had decided I wasn't going to be a teaching nun or
Yeah.
a medical nun or a missionary nun. I wanted to be totally focused on prayer in a contemplative order. You had decided that.
The only order I knew that was devoted to prayers was the Poor Clares.
Yeah.
So that was very much with the whole vocation. It was all tied up in the vocation question. But I didn't go from qualifying to becoming a nun. It was over a year later before I entered. And as that year went on, the desire grew. But it was a difficult year as well, because my family found it so difficult when I told them,
As the eldest child in the house, who did you tell first?
I often remember my mother saying that her mother never wanted any of her family to be a nun. She had 2 sisters. And so I knew, even though my mother had got very much into her faith around the same time as it became alive for me, but I knew that she wouldn't want any of us to. So I took the bull by the horns, and I decided I'd tell them all one night. So after work, I arranged to meet one of my sisters for something to eat. And I said, I'll tell her first.
Okay.
And then she's strong, and she'll help me tell the rest of them. So we were in this cafe, and she started crying, bawling, crying when I started telling. So I said, I knew it was going to be downhill after that. So we went home.
So you told her, you told your family, you told them all?
I didn't say I definitely was being called to be a nun, but I said I thought maybe, and I felt that was kind of cushioning it a bit, but it wasn't really, because they knew what the Poor Clares was, that it was an enclosed order. So yeah, it was awful. So the next morning I was going to work, and my father gave me a lift. And when I was getting out of the car, his eyes filled up with tears, and he said, I just want you to know, whatever you do, I'm proud of you. Yeah. And that was nearly even harder than the heavy duty tears and that from my mother and my 2 sisters.
Did any of them try and dissuade you, Sister Colette?
I'd say, not dissuade me, but kind of, I'd get interrogated. Are you allowed this? Can you do that? Okay, some of the questions they were asking didn't bother me, like, can you eat chocolate? Are you allowed chocolate? It wasn't going to bother me. I knew if I liked chocolate, I'd get the grace to give it up if that was part of it. So some of the things they were asking, I just knew that maybe some of them I had already factored in. You know, like if you're going to emigrate to Australia, you factor in you won't see your family as often. You know, I had some of that done before they said anything. Yeah. But when they'd ask me and I'd say, I don't know, you don't know anything about this place, and you're going in there and you know nothing about them.
And did they talk to you about motherhood and family? Did they?
Yeah. I can remember one particular occasion my mother was upset about something, and to do with me coming in, and I just kind of said, I know, something like that. Yeah. And she said, you don't know, she said. And if you go in there, you'll never know what a mother feels like, you know, for their child.
So your family actually going through all of these obstacles, or what will you miss, and doing the list, and that obviously helps you, did it?
I don't know. I don't think it did, because I think I just hated when they talk about it at all, because I just felt I felt I was causing them all this pain by this decision.
Okay.
You know, I got the vocation. So there was a grace coming to me with the vocation that was helping me maybe ride the current until I get in here. Then I had to face other things when I came in here. But whereas they were the ones that were going to go through the bereavement and the loss.
And in you came.
In I came. More tears.
And more tears. Well, tell me about the tears, and what were you...
Well, the loss of the immediate contact with family, the loss of other things, just because you know, I loved Jesus and I felt called by him didn't mean that I was any less human, or that I left my heart at the door.
When is the first time you saw yourself in the habit you're now wearing?
I suppose when I got the habit...
What was that like?
The radicality of the habit attracted me on one level, but on the other hand, I didn't realise how much fashion was part of who I thought I was. And so I loved clothes, I loved makeup, loved having the hair a particular way, and you know, if I had a bad hair day, it affected the way you would be. But I didn't realise until I came in and got the habit how much I identified with that Marina, shall we say.
And did your sense of self change?
It definitely, all these different things that I am, that I identify myself as, I am this, I am an accountant, I am whatever, a singer, or I am this, that, or the other. How much suddenly, who am I? Because that isn't there, and how do I really get in touch with who I am, or who am I? So yeah, that was quite a journey, really.
So who are you?
Who am I? Well, I suppose I got my deepest identity from the sense of being loved by Jesus. That time in Medjugorje and at other times, feeling utterly loved by God and good enough that I'm not, you know, proficient at a whole load of things, but I'm good enough. And that carried me for times where I felt maybe I wasn't good enough.
But your identity resides and rests in that love you feel for God, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think one's vocation, that's another thing you could say, I am Anon, I am a poor Clare. But it's not all of who I am, but it's a very deep part of who I am, because the vocation that we get is intrinsic to God's plan for us. And so there's a rightness about it that feels right.
Ready?
Here we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, or not.
Y'all ready for this? What are you doing? Don't touch Basket Square. That's perfect. Let's go!
Some of Ireland's leading personalities
Probiotic.
You make me look all Maura Durrani. I will break you.
are ready to share
Can I fix your mic, Bob? It's Sir Bob.
profound words of wisdom.
Hickle tip, hickle.
Callan Kicks the Ears. Wednesday at 9:35 on RTE1 and RTE Player.
Since switching to Nexium Control, I'm protected around the clock from heartburn, so my day just flows. A coffee to start the day. Lunch on the go is go. And evenings are there to enjoy with friends. Just one pill a day could give you 24-hour protection to target zero heartburn. Take control with Nexium Control.
That's the one.
Touching hands.
That's how you play McCoys.
Reaching. Catching up. Touching me. Touching me.
This flat season, experience the speed and unpredictability of flat racing with William Hill. It's who you play with, William Hill.
There's spookily special Halloween offers at Lidl this week. We've 24 packs of Carlsberg, Budweiser and Guinness from an incredible €23. Get O'Donnell's Irish Crisp range in all your favourite flavours, only $1.99 each. And pumpkins from only 49¢. So whatever white sheet scares you this Halloween, it won't be your receipt. Lidl, more for you.
Don't look weak.
You can do this.
Come on. Go!
I want to win again.
You want it all you want, doesn't mean it's going to happen.
In 8 weeks' time, one family will reach the lofty heights of success on this summit.
Brand new Ireland's Fittest Family. Next Sunday at 6:30 on RTE1 and RTE Player.
Well, Sister Colette, you're living with a group of women for nearly 3 decades that you didn't choose.
Yeah.
You didn't choose them, you chose this life, of course. On the one hand, you have disagreements, but on the other hand, you can really work at trying to see the good in another person. Is that part of the lessons, the life lessons, as being a poor Clare?
I think it's part of everyone's life lessons, but I think one of the things that can happen here is, and people might have discovered this now during the lockdown as well, not having the same outlets or distractions. They're left with the pain of their own fears or their own failures or whatever it is, the mess within. And here, because we never had those kind of distractions, you kind of had to tackle those things sooner, or you had to tackle them for your sanity.
Do you do what ifs?
I do, but just at different times. I don't do them too often, but I suppose different times, say before I would have, taken another step in the religious life. Before I would have taken vows. We'd take vows for 3 years, and we take them for life. So you do a lot of soul searching then. Times in my life where I had a hysterectomy at one stage. And so I faced that before the surgery. But then, when he told me after the surgery that my womb was gone, it was, even though I had already professed chastity, it wasn't like, but it was something that was so intrinsic to my womanhood that when it was gone. So what ifs happen at different times. It's not like, if they were happening very regularly, you'd have to say, what if you're in the wrong place? It's not normal not to kind of wonder. And there's a lot of aspects of accountancy that I'm glad I'm not having to keep up with all the different standards that are there now. I don't miss that at all.
What is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life, I think, is very much bound up with my vocation. And so I believe in God, and therefore I believe in the value of having a life dedicated to praising God. And I can see the answers to prayers, and that gives meaning to my life. I also think transmitting hope. I think most often people come to us when they're burdened and when they're looking for prayers. And I feel to give people hope or to help take some of the burden away, that has given great meaning to my life. And I think it's part of my purpose, if not all of it.
What is the meaning of life?
Well, for me, the meaning of life is it's undergirded by the Christian values of love, peace, joy, justice, forgiveness. And so trying to foster those, and for us in a particular way, because our life is based on prayer, fostering prayer in people and helping people to pray or praying with them and for them.
So what is prayer? Define prayer.
I think overall it's trying to have a relationship with God, with Jesus, and so it's as individual and as unique as every individual. The sense that each individual person has a different relationship with God, so you're not put into a kind of particular matrix that you have to stay in that, but it's trying to foster that relationship with God on good days and bad days. The reality of that.
So what's the difference between prayer and contemplation?
Well, contemplation is it's a deeper form. It's a type of prayer, And it's when the Holy Spirit kind of infuses your prayer, so when it happens at a deeper level that you don't have control over. So it's a quieter type of prayer. It's like meditation, but it's different from meditation because your mind is free, and it's, I suppose, an awareness of being in God's presence, and that's enough. And so you don't have to have thoughts or concepts because you're there, he's there, and you're together. It's a rightness.
And being in an enclosed order, like I've spoken to nuns who walked up O'Connell Street during the controversies and were spat at. But you're protected from all of that.
Yes, in some ways, but we're not protected in other ways. And some of those sisters would have come looking for prayers as well. So it's very sad because so many of those women gave their whole lives to trying to spread gospel values as well, and gave their lives to education or healthcare, and no more than all Catholics are having to suffer the repercussions of actions that were not their own. These women that were on the front lines wherever there was a need, and at personal cost to themselves, no personal gain in it. It's hard for those that have given their whole lives to that.
But do you feel cosseted in here at any time? That you're protected from all of that? That you don't have to worry about, I don't know, depression, illnesses in terms of the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? That are you protected from all of that?
In some ways, but we're not. We're humans, so we have illness. We have had to struggle with depression and despair, sadness, the gamut of human emotions, if you want to talk about emotions. And we're not cosseted from having to make decisions about real life and pay bills and the administration of the place.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of reality happens as well.
Do you do believe in the afterlife?
I do.
Heaven, hell, purgatory?
Yeah, I do. I think it makes sense. One of the greatest insights that was shown to me was that overall, that the greatest attribute of Jesus, of God, is his mercy. And mercy is love that's undeserved. And so he's given us total free will, because it wouldn't be love if there wasn't free will. And so heaven, hell, and purgatory make total sense to me. I mean, I don't think there are many people in hell, because I think you have to definitively say no to God. So I don't think it's a choice that many people would really make. But they do, and they can. Purgatory makes total sense to me as well, because I don't think any of us feels that we're ready to meet God and move into heaven this minute. I don't, anyway. And purgatory is really just a chance to kind of get our act together, because, you know, I wouldn't feel ready to meet God at this minute. And then heaven is just eternal bliss.
What do you see God as?
Well, God is love, Scripture tells us. So I believe at the...
But did God invent us, or we invented God?
Well, it's probably a good question. I'd say it could be a bit of both. I think probably in life, God is more captured by the effects of God than images of God. So, like the way you know the wind exists because you see the trees moving. I know God exists because I've seen traces of him. I see him in people. I see him in events. And I've encountered him in prayer and other ways.
And then when you get to the pearly gates, then God is there. What do you say?
Well, I think, first of all, that I'll just be so overwhelmed that I'll be speechless. And then I think that I would be praising and thanking God for, relieved as well that I got there. And I mean, obviously, well, I'm going to ask him why different people that I prayed for things that seemed reasonable to me that they weren't healed, or why was that did not work out the way I thought. Like at this moment in time, I could say, oh, I'll ask him this, that, or the other. But I think actually it will just click into place that I will know. And I think that when we are in the presence of God, that things will make sense and we'll understand without even asking the questions.
Well, Sister Colette, Mother Abbess of the Poor Clares here in Nuns Island, thanks for talking to us about the meaning of life.
Thank you.
And next week, Jo meets EU Commissioner Mairead McGuinness, who lets us in on the events that shaped her outlook on life. That's in the series finale at 10:35 next Sunday here on RTE1. On the way, Callan kicks the year.